It's August 9th, and I thought I'd do a tomato update just to let you know how things were going. We went from being way too hot to cooler than normal for this time of year, and it seems to have slowed down the ripening process. Let's take a look at a few of the individual tomato plants now. I did a taste test on the Lucid gem not too long ago, and a couple of people noted that the one I tested didn't really have that much of a dark shoulder on it. As you can see, these are all getting a lot of the that dark purple shoulder. Seems like the longer they're on the vine, the darker they get. And here's the other one. They both tend to get that leaf roll. It's got one out the top of the cage, and they're about 7 feet tall or so. There's one about ready to pick. But I've been real happy with these so far. Let's go around the other side. I've been real happy with them. They've got quite a few tomatoes still on in August. That's a huge plus. But overall, I like them. Here's that tomato I moved from the volunteer area to the main garden, and it's got its first tomato on it. And it's probably going to start setting on more. It's got one more right there, I see. We've been eating the carbons and still liking those. They really taste good, and although we had trouble with some of the first ones cracking, haven't had too much trouble with the later ones cracking. You might get something like that, but that's no big deal. It's going to rain today, so I'll probably go ahead and pick some of these ones that are getting close, just so they won't split. This is a large barred boar. It has tomatoes up near the top of the cage, which is good, but it seems to be really slow to ripen. Boxcar Willie, it really had some spider mites going on the lower part of the plant, but the upper part looks like it's still doing all right. I went ahead and sprayed it with some neem, but it's got still a lot of tomatoes on it. Let's go around the other side. You can't hardly see that bunch over there. As you can see, we're going to have tomatoes for a while on this one. But for some reason, they haven't set on too many lately up in the top. Hopefully that'll change. The Ava purple ball is starting to grow on me, both figuratively and literally. It is loaded, especially down here. I don't know why, but we have a few up towards the upper part of the cage, but not a whole lot. But I have noticed that it's starting to set on, so that'll probably improve here quickly. Let's look at that. And it has quite a few tomatoes still on. And the upper part is looking really green and healthy. The Arkansas Traveler, I kind of bad-mouthed it a while back, and it's responded by doing a little better. It's growing pretty well and setting on tomatoes, and I like the taste of it. So I might give it another chance next year. We'll see. I usually change my mind about 3 or 4 times every year on trying to decide. If it looks funny in this row, it's because there are a couple plants missing that I started with. And the solar flare went from being in my top 3 to being a fail, because it looked like it was getting diseased. I think it was blight, but whatever it was, I'm probably a little overcautious, but I pulled that sucker out. It looked like it was moving quickly, and I didn't want to take any chances, so there you go, it's gone. And right next to it, out past the normal boundary of the garden, is where I had that topaz growing. and it got fusarium wilt. So I did the same thing with it. I pulled it. It grew really well, produced some great fruit. It was a pretty plant, but it started yellowing on one side. Anyway, I'm going to do a video on that, so I won't go into a whole lot of details, but that's why it's missing. Then I have one of my late tomatoes that I started just to replace, like normally, in a normal year, this carbon would have probably already been mostly done. It might not have even had these up here, but on a normal year, a lot of times when they stop setting on and I get most of the ripe fruit, I go ahead and pull the plant just so I won't be risking the plant getting diseased and spreading that to other plants and such. This year I planted late ones to replace them, and so far there's not a need to replace it yet. But I have one started here and a couple more. This is a late one here. It's growing really well. Have a late one growing here. Well, most of the cages have a late one. I don't even remember what this was, but it's got a pretty good truss of blooms there. It's starting to sprinkle, so I'm going to have to wrap this up soon before it starts raining. But the berries, Crazy Cherry, it's getting ripe. I'll do a taste test on that. It's starting to look like it's getting some kind of disease. I don't know, maybe just stress, but the edges of the leaves are starting to turn funny color, and I think I might just pull that out soon. It started not doing well when it got really hot. And the Atomic Grape, it's got lots of tomatoes on it. And it's got some kind of squirrely looking foliage, kind of wispy looking. I don't know if I like that, but it seems to be growing pretty well. Setting on fruit, just real slow to ripen. Haven't got to taste one yet. And the grafted carbon, grafted onto Max Fort rootstock. I grafted another tomato. I'm not sure which one this is, but I grafted a tomato. It's a graft onto a graft, which is kind of weird, I guess. And this is the Lucid gem that has an eggplant grafted onto it. And it's the eggplant graft is starting to grow now pretty well and getting some blooms, so hopefully we'll get some set on soon. And the tomatoes over in the volunteer area, finally starting to get some blooms, but no tomatoes over here yet that I've been able to see. But right over here behind the corn there was a volunteer tomato, and it does have some tomatoes on. Not sure what those are. I'm assuming maybe black cherry, but I don't know. We'll see what they look like when they get ripe. And before I go, I thought I'd show you one thing that I've noticed that I thought was interesting about the grafted carbon. Let's look at a normal truss of blooms. This is a carbon. That's what their trusses look like. Now let's go look at that one on the grafted rootstock. Seems to be more blooms. Kind of like heavy clusters of them, especially this one over here. But I thought that was interesting, and it seems like a lot of the clusters will have within the cluster one of those multiple blooms. They usually grow those big, ugly tomatoes that look like Siamese twins or something. I thought that was interesting. And then as they develop, they kind of spread out more like this one. This was during the really hot weather, and it set on 2, which is good. Usually in the hot weather we don't hardly get anything to sit on in the larger tomatoes. But I just thought that was interesting. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. Just show me you're there. Thanks a bunch for watching.